If you want to achieve your goals, you're going to need to do less work. Hey, it's Lucas Grobot, and you're listening to Weaver and Loom. Welcome to episode 90 of Weaver and Loom. Own the Future. Own the Future is a podcast that is made by and for change makers. And if you're listening, I believe that you are a change maker. You are an active agent of change in the world who is born for a distinct purpose and destiny that you were designed to fulfill. And it's your responsibility to the world to fulfill it and to achieve greatness in your life and in the world around you. And Weaver and Loom is a solo segment, Sunday through Thursday, 5 days a week, where I talk to you about how do we affect change? How do we own our futures? How do we actually weave our destiny? The Weaver and the Loom is imagery from mythology where fate is being woven in the stars by the gods or the goddesses, and it's totally outside of our control. But we're flipping the script here to understand that, yes, okay, there is certainly some sort of destiny. There's certainly a divine purpose on each one of our lives that's outside of our control, whether it's encoded in our DNA, in our family line, however you want to look at it. For sure, there is a path, a destiny, a purpose that each one of us, I believe, is searching for. But with that, it rests on us to take action. It's on our shoulders to stand up and do something with our lives. We can't just be observers in our life. We have to be active agents of change. And if we want to fulfill our destiny, we are going to have to be the ones to stand up and take action, even when it's unpopular, even when everyone around us is saying, don't do that dream, that's a bad idea, you're never going to make it, you're not good enough, you're not skilled enough, you're not beautiful enough, you're not talented enough, you're not networked enough, you don't have the money. We as change makers stand up and say, yeah, but I have a dream, I have a vision for my life, and I'm not going to rest until I see it accomplished. And now for the last 6 episodes and for the next 4 episodes, we will be and have been talking about my new book that is coming out on October the 3rd, Anchored: The Discipline to Stop Drifting. It was written as a manifesto to myself, and that's why I believe in it. I believe in it because each chapter was like a journal entry that I wrote to myself as I was going through the season of my life, trying to figure out how do I actually achieve my goals? How do I walk out my purpose in the earth? How do I do this? So it started off just as pretty much journal entries. And then for the last few years, I've been working on it, editing it, working with editors, polishing it, stripping it, rewriting it, rebuilding it. And finally, I feel like it is ready for you. And if you're listening to this, if you've been enjoying this podcast, I promise you, you will enjoy this book that comes out on October the 3rd, 2019. Today, we're talking about a chapter from the book called Anchored is Doing Less. Doing less. Now, so often in the world of more, we always talk about doing more. I gotta get another meeting in, get another call in, get another post on social media. But today we're talking about the 80-20 rule that was first discovered by an economist called Vilfredo Pareto. Now, you may be familiar with the 80-20 rule. If you're not, this is basically what it is. Pareto was studying his peas, and he realized that 80% of his pea crop came from 20% of his plants. And he noticed that the other 80% of his crops were only producing 20% of his total crop of peas for that year. And he began to think, I wonder where else this pattern occurs. So he began to look at land ownership in France, and he realized that 80% of the land was owned by 20% of the people. Now, what we can learn from this is that there's the distribution of productivity isn't always equal, and there are some tasks in our life, some work in our life that is more meaningful than others. And if we put energy and effort into that 20%, which is normally hard emotional work, that 20% I have found for my life, it's not necessarily busy work. It's not necessarily more work. It's emotionally draining and taxing. But when I do that work, I see exponential results. I see 80% results. Yet I fill my life with 20% or 80% of busy work, whether it's emails or meetings or another phone call or another meetup. That 80% often proves to take a lot of time, but it's not emotionally taxing and draining. But that 80% is only actually producing 20% of the results. So what I've found is that the 20% energy that I put in, or the 20% work that I put in that actually produces 80% results, actually requires 80% of my mental, emotional energy throughout the week. And then vice versa. When I'm just doing these busy tasks, it's taxing and draining, but it feels easy, but it's not actually producing the results. Today, I want you to think and reflect upon your life. First, what are your goals? What do you really want to achieve? Because so often we get wrapped up in these false metrics and we start chasing the 80% that's only producing 20% of real fruit because we're chasing likes or we're chasing affirmation of people around us. We're not actually orientated to the correct vision and goal for our life. So first, what is the result? What is the product, the end result that you are looking for? And then what is the hard emotional work that probably only takes 20% of your time, but actually sees exponential results? Then what can you cut from your life? We can't just keep adding things to our life. It's what are you going to say no to? What are you going to cut out? What are you going to say, you know what? Yeah, a lot of other people feel like this is important, whatever it is in your life, but I found out it's actually not creating any sort of results for my life. I'm going to ditch it. I'm going to cut it out. I'm going to say no. And once you cut out that 80%, it actually leaves room for you to expand that 20% and see exponential leaps in your growth, in your productivity, and the results that you are looking for. So take some time today and ask yourself those two things and then implement them today. Don't wait. Don't let it be theory, but right now. Okay, what is the hard, emotional 20% work that you should do that's going to see massive results? For me, man, when I get on Instagram and I just sit and I DM person after person and just saying hi, hey, how's it going? That actually produces much more of the results that I want to see when it comes to growth in my podcast. But it's hard, it's emotional, it takes time, it takes emotional energy, and I don't really like doing it. But that's where I see results. So what is it for you? And then what is the busy noise that you just need to cut out of your life that's eating up your land, that's eating up your bandwidth in your mind? That's endless busy work, endless emails that are purposeless, that are just hot air. What's that? How can you kill it today? How can you do less of that and more of the hard emotional work? Thank you for listening to this episode of Weaver and Loom. If you are enjoying this podcast or this episode, please share it with a friend. Share this episode with a friend, with someone that you know is spinning their wheels on worthless work and wants to achieve something great. Send it to them today. And finally, I would love to hear from you. Please reach out to me. Let me know your thoughts, your questions. I always respond. I always answer. And that is all for today's episode. This is Weaver and Loom. I'm Lucas Skrobot. You are a change maker, and this is where destiny is woven.